What's going on, y'all? Welcome to Black and Gold Breakdown on a Saturday, June 22nd. Thanks for being in. Didn't do a show the last 2 days. We were expecting to do one Friday with me and DB that had to get pushed back, but that'll be coming soon. Yeah, just a lot of different things work-wise in terms of the NFL sphere, having to get caught up. I did my top 32 receivers. You can go read that over on USA Today. You can see where I ranked George Pickens because he is in the top 32, which I think somewhat kind of goes without saying. And then just a bunch of other stuff I had to get figured out in terms of content stuff, writing stuff. All of it's good. But yeah, that interfered a little bit with hopping on here. So figured I'd give you a Saturday show. A couple days ago on Behind the Steel Curtain, I did a write-up of my 2024 stat predictions for the Steelers offense. So quarterbacks, running backs, receivers, tight ends, all of that. And I don't know if I was going to do it now or wait until they got a receiver, another receiver. But I figure, it's the dead of the offseason. We got a month until training camp starts, so might as well do it now. And then if and when a receiver is acquired, we'll make the necessary adjustments in terms of, projections and things of that nature. Tom, how's it going? Thanks for tuning in. So I'm going to run through these. And ahead of time, I'll let you guys know, I did 2 iterations of the quarterback ones. So the first one being if Russell Wilson plays the entirety of the season, and then the other one being if Justin Fields ends up taking over as the starter. And then we'll go through running backs, receivers, tight ends, and all of that. So we'll start off with the quarterbacks. And again, this is if Russell Wilson does end up starting all 17 games, that means that he played well enough to do it. And so if he does do that, I expect some pretty solid numbers. Again, nothing like godly. I don't think he's going to be a top 10 quarterback and all of a sudden become, this version of him that we hadn't seen in 4 years. But I think numbers similar to what he did last year in Denver are, can be expected. But again, this is going to be an offense that's going to be a little bit more run heavy than Denver was. So even if the numbers aren't, godly, doesn't mean that he necessarily played worse. Remember last year, 26 touchdowns, 8 picks, top 10 in passer rating, didn't play in all 17 games. So the projections that I gave were 3,791 yards, 25 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions for Russell Wilson if he plays in all 17 games. And if those are the numbers in that case, I mean, that's, again, a team that can win 11 games with those numbers, especially with that defense as well. And again, about 3,800 yards. So if we do the math on that real quick, I can't remember the number I set it to in terms of okay, I think he can average this. So roughly 223 yards a game. I think that's doable in this offense. So it'd be about 223 yards a game, a little bit over 1 touchdown per game, 9 picks. I mean, he had 8 last year, so hovering around that same territory. Going to see some big, deep ball passes to Pickens, maybe some to Calvin Austin. We'll dive into the receivers here in a minute. Justin Fields, in that case, I still think that they would find a way to use him in some capacity, a certain number of touches per game. So I said 101 passing yards and 1 passing touchdown. I think that he would get at least 1. And then 452 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground. So I went with, okay, if he gets between 4 to 6 touches a game, and he can average, 5 yards a carry, because, at the quarterback spot, he's likely to do that. And especially if they utilize him at any point in the red zone, or he just, is in and he breaks off a big pass for a touchdown, I think that something of that kind of usage will yield a handful of big plays for Fields throughout the year. Now, if Russell Wilson doesn't play well and they turn to Justin Fields, what I came up with was about 1,818 yards, 11 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions for Wilson in 9 games. Because after 9, or I guess 8 games, because after week 9, I think that's when they would put in Justin Fields after the week 9 bye and give him a good amount of time to right the ship. So I mean, if they're 4-4, 3-5 after 8 weeks, you go into the week 9 bye, you come off the bye week playing Washington, which is a winnable game. That gives Justin Fields an entire extra week to prepare. I think that would make sense to do the switch there. And then for Fields, if he comes in 9 games, 2,074 passing yards, 15 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 401 rushing yards, and 4 touchdowns on the ground would be my projections for him there. Again, coming in second half of the year, to right the ship. This is if Russell Wilson doesn't play well, and the Steelers say, all right, let's see what we got with Justin Fields. And I think, subliminally, I think a lot of Steelers fans would like to see that just because, Fields is much younger, more athletic. You'd like to think has, a much higher ceiling long term. And you want to see what you have there. Now, there's also a world where Russ does play all season, but they work out some sort of extension with Fields and they keep him around. Maybe. But I mean, if you're Justin Fields also, there's probably going to be teams next year who are like, oh, we'd like to have Justin Fields. And he would have the opportunity to start. So, I mean, it's something that Pittsburgh would really have to figure out pretty quick and figure out what they would do. But again, if Fields takes over after the week 9 bye, I would expect somewhere around 2,074 passing yards, 15 touchdowns, 6 picks, 401 rushing yards, and 4 scores on the ground. Now, for the running backs, I think that by the end of the year, we could see Jaylen Warren getting more of the lion's share of touches, which is my guess. But overall, I'm giving Najee Harris 249 carries, 1,037 yards, and 9 touchdowns on the ground. For Jaylen Warren, I'm saying 160 carries, 834 yards, 5 touchdowns on the ground, but an additional 47 catches for 373 yards and a score. Last year, I want to say he had 53 catches last year. I think that'll go down a little bit just because in the offense, if they're utilizing Fields in some way, I think that'll dip very, very subtly into, the touches for Harris and Warren, but very small. But if you have a guy in Fields who's getting, 5 touches a game, over time, that's 85 touches in a season that would normally go to a Najee Harris or a Jaylen Warren. So again, I'll go down a little bit, but nothing too crazy. And in this situation, again, Harris would average over 4 yards a carry again. I think Jaylen Warren is going to be, last year he averaged 5.3 yards a carry. I think he'll be right around, I think we're going to see much more of Jaylen Warren. Last year had just under 800 yards rushing. I think he'll get up to that 834 mark. Again, the numbers will look a little bit more even for the running back room with Harris and Warren. On to the receivers and tight ends. So George Pickens obviously going to lead the way here. 78 catches, 1,296 yards, 9 touchdowns. Might be enough to get a Pro Bowl bid for George Pickens at that point. But he's going to be the number 1 target. That's not exactly, unless one of these big trades happens that we've been talking about for 2 months. But as of right now, he's going to get the vast majority of the targets. And again, whether that is, he talked about, being utilized more in the slot. I think that's a good idea. Not, full-time slot guy, but definitely moving him around and getting mismatches with George Pickens. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Of course they should do that. But also, the perimeter deep balls from Russ and or Justin Fields, whoever it may be. He's had north of 60 catches the last 2 years. I want to say he did it as a rookie. I want to say he's had more than 60 over the past in each of the last 2 years. Let me look at that real quick. But I'm pretty sure he has. Let's look at George Pickens' stats. Okay, so 52 as a rookie, 63 last year. He averaged over 18 yards a catch last year. So in this situation, if he does go for, 1,378, it puts him right around 16 and a half. But again, you got to remember, it's not just going to be bombs away for Pickens. It's going to be a few more underneath stuff because he's going to have to be that number one. So it's not just going to be, all right, George, I'm going to uncork this to you. He's got to do the intermediate stuff as well. So I think his average yards per catch are going to go down just because he's going to be doing more with the offense. And if you look at Pat Freiermuth will be, I think, second on the team in catches. That's a guy who's going to have a nice year. I think he'll have a career year of sorts. His third season of 60-plus catches, if I'm correct. So 67 catches, 683 yards, and 6 scores for Freiermuth, and what would be a very nice bounce-back year for him after being injured a lot of last season. I have Roman Wilson being third on the team in catches. I don't think it'll be anything, super spectacular, but I think a solid rookie year. If he can be, I make the comparison for him as like a Khalil Shakir in Buffalo. I mean, if he can be that, because last year was Shakir's second year, and he took a nice jump forward from, I think he had 10 catches as a rookie last year, I think 38 in the regular season, and then he came alive in the playoffs. So they're expecting him to take another leap forward in year 3. I think if Roman Wilson has a Khalil Shakir-like year, but in year 1, that would be great. So I have him having 45 catches, 559 yards, and 4 scores as a rookie. Again, third on the team in catches. And look, if they can get that kind of production from Roman Wilson, year 1, third on the team in catches, that's pretty good. Fourth, I have Calvin Austin. 34 catches, 458 yards, and 2 scores. I don't think he had, I don't even know what the hell he had. I think he had 31 last year, maybe. I have to go back and look. But again, I don't think Calvin Austin's going to be, a ginormous catch guy. I think he'll be, in terms of the roster, the second slot guy behind Roman. But he'll get more targets, and I think they're going to find more ways to use him, especially in this offense. I wouldn't be surprised if they had some, design carries for him as well, just because he's very fast. The 34 catches, 458 yards, and 2 touchdowns for Calvin Austin. This is going to be the one that I hope that they do a lot of, especially in the red zone. Darnell Washington, 25 catches, 210, and 3 scores. All 3 of those scores probably coming in the red zone. That would be a big uptick from what he did last year. I think he had 10 catches last year, 8 catches last year. They never really used him in the passing game, which I felt like was a massive mistake. Great blocker, but also a guy of that size should be getting some targets. So, especially in the red zone, find a way to use him. Find a way to, get him targets in the end zone. That would be tremendous. And then last but not least, Van Jefferson, 14 catches, $167, and a score. Last year he had 12 catches. I don't think he's going to have much more than that. Again, he's there to run block, and we'll see. I think, if the Steelers go into the season with the group that they currently have, you're going to have to do some moving around with guys. You're going to have to put Roman Wilson on the outside sometimes, which, he did some at Michigan. You're going to have to move Pickens inside, outside, move Roman Wilson inside, outside. Like, I wouldn't mind to see some sets, if they have 3 receivers, Pickens on one side, Roman Wilson on the other, Calvin Austin in the slot. Or if they go 4 wide, then sure, put Van Jefferson outside with Wilson and Austin in the slot with Pickens on the outside. But you got to move some guys around. Because if you don't have a solidified 2 boundary guy, you got to figure it out. And again, I do think that they will get one, but we can only project what we currently have in that case. Right now, what the Steelers have is George Pickens, Pat Freiermuth at tight end, a rookie who they took in the 3rd round who we have high hopes for, and a lot of question marks. And even then, Freiermuth, tight end, not an outside guy. Roman Wilson, predominantly a slot guy. Calvin Austin, predominantly a slot guy. Probably too small to play consistently on the outside. So they're going to have to do some alignment stuff to figure all that out if this is the group that they go into the season with, which, again, I don't think it will be. I think they will bring in somebody else. But at the same time, until they do, can't really project that in terms of, okay, I'll just say, they'll get Brandon Ayuk and give him, can't do that. Can only project what they currently have. And that's what we're going with. So, and if you're watching on YouTube, Twitter, however you're watching, you want to be part of the conversation, absolutely leave some comments. If you have any thoughts on some predictions of your own for certain players, absolutely drop them in the comments. But again, those are just mine. Like, it's late. We're getting closer and closer, but still a month away from training camp is where you're going to see a lot of these. Hey, I'll predict what each guy will do. So again, just one of those just getting you through camp pieces, getting you through camp shows. So yeah, and in terms of, like I said, I did 2 quarterback things, with, one projection of, okay, if Russ plays all 17, one if he gets replaced. I think best case scenario is almost the second one, right? Because I want Russ to play well, don't get me wrong. But like, if he doesn't and Justin Fields balls out, I think that's almost better than if Russ balls out and we don't know what we have or what the Steelers have in Justin Fields. I think it's, especially if you're like, okay, they're 4-4, and then they turn the keys over to Justin Fields going into week 10, and then they go on a run in the second half of the year, and win 10, 11 games and get into the playoffs. I think that's much more of a win if you're a Steelers fan, saying, okay, yeah, they got something in Justin Fields. And again, I'm pro whatever helps them win games. I'm pro whatever leads them to winning playoff games, winning games that matter. And if they can win a playoff game this year with Russell Wilson, which I think that they can, depending on the matchups and depending how the season goes, awesome. But at the same time, there's always going to be that, I wonder what Justin Fields looks like right now. So it's that double-edged sword. Like, oh, man, I want to see Justin Fields. I want to see him more than, a handful of plays a game. So hopefully we get something like that. In terms of the running backs, I think that Najee Harris, this is going to be his last year in Pittsburgh. But if he gets, another 1,000-yard season out of it, then cool. And if Jaylen Warren keeps balling out, then cool. So we shall see. Justin is riding camels today. Riding camels? Is he on some sort of trip? I saw he was working out with CJ Stroud and Route God. I did see that. I haven't seen anything about him riding camels, though. Oh, by the way, let me say this about the Justin Fields stuff, right? There's been a lot of stuff going out about him over the past few days. And I can only speak for what I've seen. And what I've seen throughout the process of OTA's minicamp is a guy who is keeping his head down, working his butt off, and trying his best to, have a comeback that is bigger than the setback. From the first practice I was at OTAs, which would have been, I think, their third overall practice, to the final day of minicamp, there was obvious growth. And in terms of Fields, when you see him in the locker room with having a little bit of a media scrum, I think somebody said that he looked uninterested. I don't even think it's that he's uninterested. I think he's just a guy who is obviously he's dealt with a ton over the past few months, over the last year, really. Because once it was evident that the Bears were going to have the number 1 overall pick, everyone was like, oh, well, Justin Fields is probably gone. And so if you're dealing with that and you finally get away from that, you just want to prove everybody wrong and you want to play well. And so, if he seems disinterested, I don't think it's disinterest. I think it's just a guy who is, a little bit mentally exhausted and just wants to work. Now, look, I'll say this about him too. Even if he doesn't want to talk, hasn't turned me away yet. Hasn't turned, from what I've seen, hasn't said no to anybody who has any questions for him or wants to, talk to him. He's been very good with his time. He's been very gracious with the media. So all I've seen is a guy that is working hard. Gets along with his teammates too, by the way. I was pissed because during, it was just, quarterbacks and wide receivers and tight ends, they were working on certain route concepts. And while Fields was waiting his turn to throw and Pat Freiermuth was waiting his turn, they were working on like a secret handshake. He seemed to be having a good time. Him and George Pickens looked to be having a good time on the sidelines. He's got a good rapport with Darnell Washington. Like, it's a guy who's getting along with his teammates and who his teammates seem to really like. So, like I said, I can only say what I'm seeing. I can't speak for anybody else. And in terms of, what somebody else might see, you could ask 10 different guys on the beat, hey, how's Fields look? And you'll probably get a variation of, 10 different answers. Because, your opinion is also based off of, expectations and things of that nature. So, I'm not going to knock anybody for, I don't think Fields has looked as good as I hoped he would have. Okay, well, if you thought he was going to look really, really good and he hasn't lived up to that, then sure, that's your opinion. I can only tell you guys what I saw throughout the offseason. And what I saw throughout the offseason program was a guy who got steadily better, looked more comfortable near the end of the offseason program, and I think just wants to keep his head down and work. And while that may be the case, he's been nothing but gracious with his time. Again, anytime I asked to talk to him, he didn't tell me no, gave me good answers, didn't seem disinterested, dejected, pissed off, anything like that. I think he's a guy who's just heard a lot of noise this offseason, dealt with a lot this offseason, finally, got a fresh start, and now just wants to make the most of it. So I don't think it's disinterest. I think it's a guy who's just been through a good amount and wants to get back to work. So that's just my opinion on Justin Fields and what I can tell y'all. And again, if you have any comments, questions, Steelers related, NFL related, drop them in the comments. Stay on for a few more minutes. But yeah, just wanted to do the stat prediction show because I did the write-up for it at Behind the Steel Curtain. You can go read the write-up for it on Behind the Steel Curtain right now. Hi, George. How's it going? If the Steelers offense ranks 20th or better, it would be a big improvement. It would give the defense a chance. That's the thing, too. Like, talking to, like, a lot of my friends in the media or just to people on Twitter, who talk about, oh, man, the Steelers aren't going to be a top 10 offense. They don't need to be. If this is a league average offense, that is a tremendous upgrade from what it was a season ago, where they were, I don't know, 27th, 28th, somewhere in there, bottom of the barrel. I can actually just tell you what they were last year here. We'll pull up some advanced stats. And I'll tell you where they ranked and everything. So offense-wise, last year, the Pittsburgh Steelers, hold on, the mothership is loading. So in EPA per play, they were 23rd. In success rate, they were 16th, a lot of that being the run game. But once we start looking at dropback stuff, 25th in EPA per dropback, and success rate, 23rd. Now, the run game was good. That was one of the few things about the offense that was really good. Like if you look at their rush EPA, they were 12th. And if you look at their rush success rate, they were 10th. So a lot of the, bad play from the offense was pretty evident, and it goes without say. But here, let's go to, they fired Canada ahead of week 12? So let's go weeks 1 through 11, what the offense looked like. As she loads back up. EPA per play for the offense, 25th. Success rate for the offense, 25th. EPA per dropback, 26th. Success rate on dropbacks, 27th. Even the rush wasn't quite as good under Canada in terms of success rate. They're 11th in rush success rate. That went up after he went to 10th. So, yeah, it goes without saying. The offense stunk. And if you look at DVOA stuff as well, I think they were, in terms of 3-and-out percentage, they were near the top of the league. Punts per drive, they were at the top of the league. There was a bad offense. And it's only going to get better. That's a low bar. Not very, again, you got to be better than 25th, 26th, 27th in a lot of these categories offensively. They can do that. If they can be, 18th, 19th offensively, consistently across the board and be a league average or slightly below league average offense, that's great. Fields had to deal with a lot of drama in Chicago. Yeah, he did. He did. He went through multiple offensive coordinators and play callers since he was there. Because remember, they fired Matt Nagy, and then they brought in Matt Eberflus, who hired Luke Getsy as the OC. Luke Getsy's not a good offensive coordinator. Matt Nagy, not a very good offensive coordinator or offensive play caller. So, and plus his rookie year when he got thrown to the Wolves, they had a horrible offensive line. So I'm not terribly worried about Fields. I think that if and when his number is called upon, he can play well. I don't think he has a ceiling of being an elite quarterback, but if he has, a Baker Mayfield-esque career arc, just a little bit sped up where, a team writes him off and then he bounces back with a new team and earns a big deal, cool. If Justin Fields ends up being what Baker Mayfield was for the Buccaneers, that's great. Do I think he's going to be, golf with the Lions? Probably not, because that's a pretty high bar. But the upside is certainly there. And again, it's not a high bar for the offense. You got to clear some pretty bad numbers. And for quarterback play, it's even worse. I can pull up what the quarterback play for all three guys was last year. This will be fun. So in terms of an EPA per play basis, we'll go minimum 150 plays, weeks 1 through 18 for quarterbacks. I'll tell you where all three Steelers quarterbacks ranked. As soon as she gets, all right. So in terms of EPA per play, 45 quarterbacks that had at least 150 snaps. Kenny Pickett was 32nd. Might have to even go lower to see guys like Mitch Trubisky. I didn't think it was going to be that low. All right, let's go 100. We'll go 100. So I think they all had at least 100. Really, Mason Rudolph didn't have 150 plays? Are we sure? That feels incorrect. Okay, so 49 quarterbacks had 100 snaps. Mitch Trubisky was 41st. Kenny Pickett was 33rd. And Mason Rudolph apparently didn't play 100 snaps last year. So how about that? I want to go minimum 75 so we can find Rudolph. How many plays did he? There's no way he had less than 100 snaps. Maybe it's 100 pass attempts. Maybe that's why. I think that's what we're going to chalk it up to. Maybe he didn't have that many. Oh my goodness. Okay. So 90 plays for Mason Rudolph. Again, that feels low. But if you want some funny numbers, of all quarterbacks that played at least 75 snaps last year, Mason Rudolph was second in the NFL in EPA plus CPOE. And if you don't know what that is, what CPOE is, it's completion percentage over expected. That is tremendous. Let's look at success rate. Where's Mason Rudolph rank? Probably not too high. Yeah, because he's still dealing. Yeah. So success rate, Rudolph was 23rd, Trubisky was 24th, Pickett was 37th. So, I mean, again, not high bars to clear in terms of quarterback play in Pittsburgh over the past, while. So, again, we'll see what comes of Wilson and Fields. I would be very shocked if Russell Wilson doesn't start week 1. I do think it is a competition, a legitimate one. But I do think that Russell Wilson has looked better, and I think will be the starter. But if the offense doesn't look much better, then yeah, I do think that they'll be compelled to be like, well, we have this dude on the sidelines who's uber athletic, fits this offense. Let's see what we got. Fields is still in Chicago with all the additions they've added this offseason. What would he have looked like this year? That's a good point, too. And look, I credit the Bears for a few things. One, Fields wanted to come to Pittsburgh. Ryan Poles honored that when he said, I will send you where you want to go. Fields said, I want to go to Pittsburgh. They honored that. They sent him to Pittsburgh. Tip of the cap to Ryan Poles for that. But also realizing that, we can't make the same mistakes again. We got to get this guy some help. So trading for Keenan Allen, great job. And even though you already had DJ Moore and Keenan Allen, drafting Rome Odunze, now you've got 2 legitimate outside guys and Keenan Allen to put in the slot. Pretty damn good. I think the Bears are going to be a playoff team this year. I think they'll be the number 7 seed in the NFC, and I think that they'll be a playoff team. As long as Caleb Williams pans out and has a solid rookie year, that defense is actually, you look at the guys that they have, pretty solid defense. And the way that they played in the back half of last year, too. Like, that's a team that quietly could be a playoff team. So, yeah, things didn't work out for Fields. But that's the NFL. It happens sometimes. But I think we'll call it there for the day. Again, Saturday stream I didn't do on Thursday or Friday. Had a bunch of work stuff just piled up that I really needed to attend to. So wasn't just ignoring this. I've said it before. Have thought about just doing every other day shows until training camp. That might be the move, just because it's going to be a lot of repetition. So I think what we're going to start doing will probably be like Monday, Wednesday, Friday shows. But if there's a call to do more, then obviously I'll do more. But we'll see where it brings us. But till then, if you're not already subscribed to the channel, please do so. Steelers shows, NFL shows. The most recent episode of The Pump Fake, me and Doug Farrar previewing the NFC West. Good stuff as always. This coming week will be... there's no way we've gone through every division so far. We haven't done the Southern divisions yet. We've done the Eastern ones. We've done the Northern. Yeah, so we just have the South left. So we'll do AFC South, NFC South over the next 2 weeks. And that'll carry us home. So that'll be fun. Who is it going to be with? I don't know yet. But as always, be back for the Pump Fake next week. And more Black and Gold Breakdown. And again, if you're not already subscribed, please do so. Oh, wait, hold on. We have to do the the Daily Show subscriber count. We are at 1,139. Fast track to 1,200. Appreciate you guys very, very much. Like I said, I'll see you next week for the Pump Fake, more Black and Gold Breakdown. Appreciate y'all tuning in. As always, I'll see you soon.